Before we begin today's episode, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the reality that many are silently living with. Are you aware that every year, more than 1 in 3 women experience sexual violence in their lifetime? And many never speak up for years and sometimes decades. Domestic violence affects 1 in 4 women, and far too often, children are the silent witnesses to the pain that leaves invisible scars. I know this story intimately. I was a child who endured both molestation and the trauma of watching a mother survive domestic violence and even facing homelessness. But I'm still here, stronger, healed, and transformed. Are you aware that May is Mental Health Awareness Month? And it's the perfect time to remind ourselves healing is possible and that you're not alone. If you or someone you know needs support, don't be afraid, reach out. There's the National Domestic Violence Hotline number, and it is 1-800-799-7233. Again, that's 1-800-799-SAFE. RAIN is another important number that you can hold on to or reach out to. It is a rape, abuse, and incest national network, and their toll-free number is 1-800-656-HOPE. Again, that number is 1-800-656-4673. This episode, you guys, is a personal one, and I invite you to listen with an open heart. Let's begin.
Authentic Talks is all about authentic conversations. This show is all about growth, love, respect, success, mind, body, and spirit. If you're looking to grow and become your authentic self, then this is the podcast for you. And I am your host, Shanta. Welcome to the show.
Hi guys, welcome back to Authentic Talks 2.0. My name is Shanta Generally, and I am your host. Regardless of if you're a returning listener or you're here for the very first time tuning in, I do want to welcome you. I do want to extend that open invitation to all of you tuning in to hit that subscribe button. That way you won't miss an episode once I upload a show. And if you enjoy the episode, head on over to Apple Podcasts or Podchaser and leave the show a review. I do want to let you know that you do have that open invitation to come back again and again. As you're listening to this episode, if you find that it might be helpful for a family member, a friend, or someone you know, please share the episode. It may help them in so many powerful ways. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and dive on in with today's episode. You guys, I was sitting on my couch with my son, and we were trying to find something to watch on Netflix. We wanted to watch a movie, not a series. As he was going through under my Netflix account, we noticed that that's all that was popping up was series and no movies. And so he said, "Mom, I'm going to switch over to Dad's account. That way we're going to find an action movie." I picked up my phone while he was switching over to my husband's account, and I opened up YouTube. When I opened up YouTube, I seen Phil Thomas, My Response, and it was a song, and I clicked it to see what it was. Because I had never heard the song on YouTube, but I had heard the song before, but I had never watched a video. So I clicked play, and then the song began to play. And as the lyrics were playing, I heard, "You have rescued my life, and I'm never going back." As it was playing, emotions began to rise up, you guys. I felt so full, and I was trying to control my emotions because I didn't want to start crying and my son start looking at me like, what is going on? I asked him, put this on the TV. So we listened to it on TV. As it was playing, I just was like, oh my goodness. Like, I felt full, and then I couldn't control it, you guys. I started weeping. I was crying. and emotions was rising up, and it just hit me to the core. And it wasn't sorrow, but it was a mix of joy, gratitude, and release. I wasn't crying because I was broken. I was crying because I was no longer broken. I want to talk to you today about the power of song. You know, sometimes music can help us to find words our hearts can't even begin to say. As those lyrics were playing, "You have rescued my life and I am never going back," I was just like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. Like, I felt so good, you guys. It resonated with me so much, you know? And we all realize that in our life, there's so many different seasons, you know? You can categorize it as the first quarter, second quarter, third, fourth, or you can categorize it as, you know, my pre-teen years, my teen years, my young adult years. It goes on. And so you can have even more categories. I was viewing mine from the sense of like a child, right? That was the first phase. And I thought about my life of how I had been through being molested and how I was rescued out of that situation. But then another situation came about, which was where we experienced my mother being beat and having to watch her boyfriend beat her. And we weren't sure if he was going to kill her one day. And then just being able to see that, like, wow, we were rescued out of that situation. But then another situation presented itself, which was us becoming homeless for a while. And then that situation was resolved. And then another situation presented itself, which was now here I am with a young adult wishing things like I had my own apartment, wishing that I had my own car, you know, and being a young mother. And then once I accomplished those things, then another situation presented itself. And then each thing that presented itself, there was a rescue. You guys, the rescue is the moment you realize you're never going back. And for me, the rescue was when we knew we were never going back to her boyfriend. And sometimes they say everything happens for a reason. I want to go back to this one particular day in my life as a child. I recall the moment that it was something horrible that happened. And it was news of my aunt being hit by her motorcycle and unalived on impact of that motorcycle hitting her. That was a horrible day. My family, my cousins, they lost a loved one. And it was one of those situations where my mother had to come back for us because there was funeral arrangements that needed to be made. We were so happy to see her, and that was a rescue for us where we were taken out of that situation and we were able to leave with her when she left again. A horrible situation happened, but yet there was some good that came out of that situation, which was we were no longer going to be molested anymore. And that's when that stopped. It was not my aunt's fault. What happened was my mother had left so that she could try to make a better life for us and had left us with family. Then when we were in another state, she went to help a family member out, which was her father, to take care of him because he was sick. So we left one state, moved to the other state, and while we were there, we ended up meeting another situation. And in this situation, it was where she was experiencing domestic violence by a boyfriend that she had. It took us going through a flood for us to get away from him. Before the flood came, like the waters were rising, everyone had to be evacuated. We had to be evacuated and put in a motel. At that time, it was me, my sister, and my 2 female cousins and my mother. And for some reason, he was not allowed to come into that motel with us because there was only like 2 beds and like a pull-out couch. We were really cramped in that place. And that was the beginning of the rescue, because once we got out of that situation where the waters started moving back and they were going down, they were receding, we ended up getting a voucher. We received a voucher from FEMA. They assisted us with clothing, with furniture, and we had way more after FEMA than what we had prior to FEMA. We were actually living a much better life, and we were away from him. And then that became another rescue. The moment that I understood that we were never going back to him, that was the rescue. As that song continued to play, you guys, it was like a movie playing in front of my eyes, just flashing really quick over the years of how many situations that we have had in our life, that I had in my life, that I needed to be rescued and was waiting to be rescued. And I knew that I needed to take some form of action in older years. But as a child and a young teen, a lot of times I was under the care of someone else. And so when the rescue came, it was like that moment for me. And so when I hear those lyrics, they just resonate with me. And I just was filled with such gratitude and joy because, I survived. I am a survivor and I healed. And it wasn't an easy journey. It was not easy at all. But the fact that I am here now, able to tell my story and to tell you with such a full heart and to let you know that sometimes there will be so many moments, so many different situations, but then we have to understand and realize that sometimes the change is already in motion. It's already happening. And for us, it was the news of a flood was coming. I had no idea that in that moment when those waters were rising, that was going to be the change that we needed, that bad thing that happened in our life, which is the flood and us getting ready to lose the very small amount of things that we had that were material possessions, was going to actually turn out to be the end of one particular struggle. Now, once I became a young adult, you guys, I remember sitting on the curb one day and I was watching people get out of their cars who looked like they had great jobs, and they looked like they were just so responsible, and they were going inside of their apartments. And I just remember smelling the food that they were cooking and just having a dream of one day having my own apartment. And I was visualizing and just imagining myself cooking and sitting down and eating a great meal. And I also pictured myself driving in a car and just not having to ride the bus and not having to have struggle with like day-to-day meals, and being able to open up a refrigerator and to have like things that I really wanted to eat, and just to have options of food that I could actually cook. Those tears were tears of gratitude that those seasons in my life are over, that I'm past that, and that there was transformation and healing, you guys, that had to take place. This also included forgiveness. It was a huge part of that. When we've experienced situations, sometimes it feels like there's no rescue, there's no help, there's no place to turn. And I just want to let you know that you too can have that rescue moment. It doesn't mean that you have to forget what you've been through. What it really means is that it no longer, that situation or that thing no longer controls you. That's your rescue moment. The moment you realize that. The other day I was on Facebook and I had shared a post about that case with Cassie and with Sean Combs, and I was talking about how we shouldn't be so quick to be judgmental and to say that she's trying to get a money grab. I was simply wanting to share that we want to understand how difficult it is for someone to speak up when they've gone through sexual abuse or physical abuse of any sort. It's hard to talk about those things, and when a woman speaks up, we have to allow her to share her truth, and we don't want to bash and make it hard for the next woman, the next little girl, the next little boy to stand up and speak their truth. I was not surprised to hear that others had experienced that from family members, some form of sexual abuse, and that some are still struggling and that it's like torn their life apart. I want to speak to you. I want to speak to the person, the woman, the little girl, the little boy who's gone through trauma that's now a grown man or a grown woman, or maybe you're in your teen years, regardless of your age. If you've experienced trauma like molestation and you have hidden scars, to anyone whose past they want to escape from, I really, really want to talk to you. I want to let you know that these things do not have to take control over your life where it's controlling you. At one point, I was afraid to talk about this on my podcast because I had heard people saying things like, people who were molested as children are sick and they end up being the same way. And I was like, that is not true. And because of that judgmental mindset or the comments that I would hear or people make or that I would read, it had put me in a position where I was like, I don't even want to talk about that because I don't want people to think I'm like that. But at this point, you can't even shut me up. I don't care what people think or what they say. I'm telling you that healing is possible. There's all sorts of ways that you can do this. There's counseling that you could go through. There's therapy that you can go through. The one thing that you should never, ever do, though, is not speak on it. That's taking away your sense of peace. It's taking away your healing. And for those who think that people who have gone through trauma, that they're sick and that they never can heal, I'm here to let you know that it's absolutely untrue. People can heal, people can be set free, and people can end up helping other people through their journey of healing and transformation. It is so important for you to understand that you don't have to stay in that place that broke you. The rescue may not come with flashing lights. It may not come in the form that you think that it should, where you're going to feel good about yourself or your situation every single day. Sometimes it comes like in a quiet moment. Sometimes it comes through words in a song. Sometimes it comes when you're sitting on a couch listening to a song that changes things. It changes everything. And it makes you realize that you are free, that you've been set free, and that no one no longer has control over you. I had gone through my journey of transformation and healing, and I felt really like I definitely was healed. But what I didn't understand is there was times when I would speak about this, and it would come from such an emotional place where tears would come up. And today when I heard those words, you guys, something else kicked in when I heard, "You have rescued my life and I'm never going back." I understood I was no longer crying because I was broken. That's what I understood, you guys. And I understood that I was crying because I was no longer broken. And that song helped me to put that into context and to put that into words that made sense. Regardless of what your situation may be, it doesn't have to be that it's a sexual molestation situation. It does not have to be that you're going through or have gone through witnessing someone go through domestic abuse or violence of some sort like I did as a child. It could be something that you're dealing with now as an adult. I don't know what it could be exactly for you, but I want you to know that give yourself permission to speak your truth. Even if your voice shakes, give yourself permission to express what you've been through, whether it's through journaling, through prayer, or really speaking with a trusted friend, a therapist. I want you to know that your story matters. Speaking it begins the process of reclaiming your power. And one of the things that you never want to do is silence your voice. That voice is connected to our throat chakra, and you definitely want to make sure that throat chakra is open. And that starts with speaking your truth. Speak your truth. The next thing that you're going to have to do is create a daily anchor. Now, this means that you're going to need to find one small thing each day that reminds you that you are not where you used to be. This could be a song, this could be a quote, it could be a short walk, or even a mirror filled with affirmations. The affirmations could be something like this: I am healing, I am whole, I am not going back. For those of you who have not began that journey and who feel like you're walking towards the rescue, I want to remind you, don't rush the rescue, but keep walking towards it. Freedom may not come all at once, but every small step matters. It mattered for me, every small step. And we're all different, but one thing we all have in common is that we're all human. That matters so much, you guys. One example that I can share is therapy and counseling might work for someone. Someone else might find another avenue that will be helpful for them. It's important for you to take those small steps that's going to help you to get there. And I want you to celebrate each sign of growth. Celebrate every single sign of growth. You have to do that. We call that celebrating our wins. I want you to know that it's super important for you to set those boundaries. You can simply get used to saying no. When you really don't mean yes, you have to say no. That is you setting your boundaries, and it's choosing yourself. Now, that is the rescue unfolding. That is that rescue unfolding, okay? I want you to focus on your own rescue, or the one that you're walking towards, okay? I want you to remind yourself that transformation is real, healing is possible, and that the past does not get to write the final chapter. Today, I'm not where I used to be, and for that, I am thankful that I'm never going back. I am so grateful that my son and I were able to just kind of hang out and do much of nothingness in that moment. And it was divine that I picked up my phone, and when I opened up YouTube, that song was there. Phil Thomas, thank you for creating such an amazing song. It's called My Response. Woo! What an amazing song, and it's not a new one. If you're listening to this and you're in the middle of your own rescue, please know that you're not alone. Your story is unfolding, and even if it doesn't feel like it yet, healing is happening. One breath, one choice, one day at a time. Don't be afraid to let go of what no longer serves you. And don't be afraid to step into the freedom that is waiting for you on the other side. It feels so good. Thank you for sharing this space with me today. And if this episode spoke to your heart, share it with someone who may need to hear it too. And as always, keep doing your inner work, keep showing up for yourself, and keep it authentic. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. And remember, you are not your past. You are healing, and you are never going back. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm Shanta with Authentic Talks.